What sociologists like in this theory is that the class is not defined solely in economical terms, but also in socio-psychological terms. A class is not just a group of people who share certain economic characteristics. It may, under certain circumstances, transform into a group of people who are aware of the fact that they are a class, that they are a collective with its own interests, that they should defend as a group, or to say this in the Hegelian language that Marx liked so much, under certain circumstances a class may become conscious of itself. It then is transformed from a Klasse an sich, a class in itself, into a Klasse für sich, a class for itself. Now this idea of a social category, be it a class or another kind of entity, becoming reflexively aware of itself is a very interesting notion indeed. Take for example a generational group. You may talk about, let's say, the group of people that were born between 1980 and the year 2000. You could say, that's a generation who experienced during their adolescence the rise of the personal computer, the rise of the internet. We may ascribe all kinds of characteristics to them, but the question here is, do they share a sense of solidarity? Does that generational cohort entertain a kind of we feeling? Although Marx is interested in the socio-psychological aspects of class, he has often been criticized for his one-sidedness in still focusing too much on just the economic elements in class. 20th century sociologists have proposed that classes may also be defined in other ways, for example with regard to educational level or to political power or prestige or lifestyle. Max Weber, for example, has tried to broaden this idea of class. And at the end of the 20th century, French sociologist Pierre Bourdieu has written several books, but especially one study called Distinction, in which he tries to show that we should not only take economic capital into account, but also social capital, the power of the network that somebody can mobilize. And cultural capital, for example, the knowledge of the arts and the sciences that enable somebody to confidently interact with the members of the dominant classes. Now, Bourdieu and Weber are not Marxist sociologists, but they are inspired by Marx when they develop their own sociological approach, sometimes adopting elements of his work and at other times correcting him, or sometimes even completely rejecting him when they think that he got it all wrong. Which brings us to the much debated question whether Marx, very generally speaking, was correct in his analysis of capitalism and its future. Marx made his theory very vulnerable by making explicit predictions about the future of capitalism. It would, in the long run, fall victim to its own inherent contradictions. Marx believed capitalism as we know it would ultimately destroy itself. And Marx was very clear about one thing. That revolution would take place in the most advanced, the most industrialized countries. In England, in France, in Germany, where capitalism had developed furthest. Marx did not specify the moment this would happen, but when in 1871 the Commune of Paris was on the front pages of every European newspaper, Marx clearly believed that what he had predicted was now really beginning to take shape. You could say that in a way Marx was right when he prophesied that capitalism as he knew it was bound to disappear, because yes, the long working days were shortened, the factory workers became richer, their housing conditions became better, laws were introduced to forbid the employment of children in factories. Enterprises completely controlled by the members of just one family, who not only were the stock owners, but at the same time directed the family as managers, became rare. Property and management were collectivized and often separated. Some of those developments were predicted by Marx. But one thing was conspicuously absent in the highly developed industrial societies of the West. The revolution didn't occur. Capitalism did not disappear.